Get to the church blind! Get to the church blind! Go! Now!
I'm Pete Mitchell, and he's Peyton Jones, and you're listening to Hardcore Church Planting, the companion podcast for the Church Planter Podcast and Church Planter Magazine. Each week, we'll bring you interviews from planters who are in the trenches making it happen right now. These active church planters bear it all, share their successes, their failures, and what they'd wish they'd known when they were first starting out. Listen in to discover how God is working in their church plant. Hey, Church Planter, this is Pete Mitchell.
And this is Peyton Jones.
And you're listening in to a very special episode of Hardcore Church Planting because we've got a special guest. Peyton.
We do.
Introduce him.
Barry Walters, which I'm told that's not too bad. Is that right, Barry?
You did it better earlier on. That wasn't so good. You went away.
Yeah, I did. I came back, really. I mean,
yeah.
I'm always told my Welsh accent is bad. Go figure. I lived there 12 years, still can't do the accent very good. But hey, our guest today is Barry Waters. He is, I would say, less of a friend, more of a little brother, and a guy that I have been able to watch. Well, he'll tell you more of the story over his development, but Barry actually schedules the guests on our podcast, but he is not just the president of the Hair Club for Men and Church Planters. He's also a client. He is also doing a work in South Wales. He'll tell you more about that. But Barry is also the look behind the magazine. He is the current managing editor of Church Planter Magazine. So we're tied in pretty tight with him, but we've asked him on the show today to talk about what's going on, something called Coffee Church. And so, Barry, welcome on to the show, man.
It is a pleasure to be on. It's a privilege. Long-time listener, very big fan of it all.
And
first-time guest.
And it is
yes.
And it is a big privilege. Let's just be clear about that. To be on this podcast, it's a privilege. And
yeah,
really,
let me be clear. Pete is not saying it is a big privilege to have you on here. It is not even a big privilege to for me to be here. It's or for him to be here with me. It's for us to be here with him.
Oh, okay.
Well,
it's for me and you, Peyton, to be with Pete.
We are the privileged ones.
Since I am
Pete is humoring us.
Since I'm even more confused about what you're saying, let me just jump in here, guys, with our first inaugural question that I always get to ask. I get to ask two questions, and then pretty much Peyton kicks me to the curb, and then he takes over from there. So, question number one is this, Barry. Tell us your story of how you came to faith.
Okay, I have a question for you guys before before I go into
I don't think you understand how this works, this show.
Just a quick one. Okay, so Peyton quite often refers to me as his Padawan. So I'm thinking like he's the Obi-Wan, I'm his Luke. So what does that make Pete? Are you Han? Or you Vader, or well, like I mean, you and
Pete is up the Hutt clan.
I'm a Hutt.
Yeah, he's a Hutt. He kind of runs the whole operation.
Oh yeah, okay, I see that. Okay, how I came to faith. So it's kind of how I came to faith. Peyton actually played a whole big part in that. So I grew up in a Christian family, but never really made any significant connection with the gospel. It was just going to church for the sake of going to church. And oddly enough, I started reading the Da Vinci Code, which was how Pillar got started, the church that I ended up getting saved in. So there's all these very odd connections in my story and how it all came about to be. Anyway, so I started reading the Da Vinci Code and had all these questions about it, like, oh, could Jesus have had a wife and everything like this? I was asking my my mother, and she was like, oh, you should come along to this thing. We've got a decoding Da Vinci Code evening. So I went along to this thing, and they went through it and explained all the reasons why the book was nonsense. and how we know it's nonsense because we have all this historical evidence. And it was the first time I'd ever seen the Bible taught in historical context. Now, around the same time, Peyton is launching Pillar. Now, he launched Pillar because he was working with my dad as a clinical troubleshooter. That would be the correct term, Peyton?
Yep, that was it.
Okay. And so I'd met Peyton at this point already. So Peyton plants Pillar. I go along to the first Sunday, but don't really come back after that. But I have all these questions in my head now because of what's been opened up by going to this Decode and Da Vinci Code evening. And I decided I was going to go do some traveling after finished university. So I got a job, and which freed me up to go to church on Sundays. Now, my brother and my best friend Steve had already been going along, and they were like, "You got to come along and listen to this crazy American guy preach. He talks about Batman all the time." So I started going along, and I don't even know really the point when I became a Christian, but when I turned up a Pillar at Sunday, and the Sundays that I kept going, I'd never been more accepted in any place I'd ever been to in any form of community whatsoever. I was just wholeheartedly accepted. I would turn up like hungover on Sundays and be quite honest and open about it because I still wasn't living a Christian life. And the guys would just be amazing and just loving and caring. And then Peyton would talk about Batman in his sermons, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. You know, this is what church can really be." And we would sit and discuss, and I'd get asked all these questions, and I'd throw out crazy stuff, and the guys would just be so graceful and loving and kind and just give me the gospel in that way. And eventually I just decided this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. It's awesome. And did it bother you that I was mentioning Batman when you are in fact the Marvel aficionado of the universe?
Well, I do prefer Marvel. I am a Spider-Man guy, but I do like Batman. So,
but let's face it, Marvel is better, right?
Yes.
I mean, like way better than DC.
Yeah. Good.
The movies, I'll give you that. But
everything, the characters. Come on, they came up with Wolverine. That's all. Like, just leave it right there. Wolverine. Boom. Done.
Wolverine.
Case closed.
Totally
argument over.
Yeah, he wouldn't stand a chance against a bat. Just, I knew this podcast was going to turn into this. Whose fault is this?
Well, Barry,
nonsense.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now with your church plant.
Well, I came over about 2 years ago now to study with you guys in New Breed and sort of intern with you guys. When I came back from California after being out there for 6 months, I started randomly, sort of through just happenstance circumstances, meeting up with a bunch of guys and sort of counseling through some issues that they were having. They're all guys who'd been in church and Christians and stuff like that, but for one reason or other had been hurt at certain churches or had fallen away from church for a couple of different reasons. And so I was meeting with a few guys, and these guys all knew each other as well. So they were like, "Oh, well," after a while, they were just like, "We should all just meet together." So we started meeting together, and then they were like, "We should just do a Bible study." And I was like, "Okay, but let's do it so we can open it up to more people." So we did it kind of like a book club type way, where we'd study we'd go through a book of the Bible in the same way as a book club would. And after a while, the guys were like, no, we don't want to do this. We want to do a real Bible study. So I was like, okay. So more people started coming along. And then after a while, they were like, "Oh, this is difficult to do this on a weeknight. We should do this on a weekend." And I was like, "So you guys want to do it on Sundays?" And they were like, yeah, let's do it on Sundays. And then so we started doing it on Sundays, and more people started coming along. And eventually I had no other alternative to start saying, "Well, this is church." I had no intention of starting it whatsoever. God just kind of just pushed me in that direction and didn't really give me much of a choice with it. And now we have like about 15 people coming on a Sunday morning, and we've just started a Monday night meeting because some of the other people who wanted to come along, or some people who were coming on Sundays, couldn't make it on Sundays, so they meet on Mondays as well now as well. So that's where we're at.
So people, those of you listening, you're going, oh, 15 people, man. That's just not even barely a core team for a church plant.
Yeah.
This is what you have to understand about Wales. To get one person from Wales to show interest in the gospel is a big deal. And so you have to, I would come back to America as a missionary the first couple of years, and I'd tell them, hey, we've been over there, and a dude got saved in the factory. And, I remember coming back being excited because 3 people got saved. And I'll never forget sharing on a Sunday morning at my singing church and them looking at me like, oh, Peyton, I'm so sorry. We need to pray for you more. Like to them, like they didn't realize like that is huge, right? Like that is a miracle. Like when you're in Europe, it's like going to San Francisco or Manhattan. It is just, but on speed, like maybe, twice, 3 times, how you would quantify that. It's much harder. And so the reality is to get people, and I remember going and seeing it and loving the fact that you guys were very content to just have it be what it was, because non-believers were coming, it was working, and they were getting saved. And so there will come a point, don't you think, Barry, at which the Christians, that are coming along, they're going to be like, let's make this into a church, right? What do you feel about that? How do you navigate that? Because you've got something that's working. I remember the advice I gave to you guys when I was there. How do you navigate all that?
How do I navigate it?
The pressure from Christians to take it and make it into something different. Now that it's, hey, this is really cool. There's this kind of like, this pressure, like kind of like Israel, right? Israel was doing good. God was their king, on and on. And all of a sudden they looked around the other nations and said, hey, we need a king. And they go to Samuel and say, find us a king, man. And Samuel's like, you don't need that, like just let God be your king. I would liken the pressure that Christians give to something like what you're doing to, to make it like, hey, let's get in a building. Let's do this. Let's do that. The same kind of thing, because they have in their mind an idea of what they think church should be. And yet this is highly effective. Kind of our tagline on the other podcast, which is the Church Planner magazine podcast, Church Planner podcast. In order to reach ones nobody's reaching, you need to go where nobody's going and do what nobody's doing. That's what you're doing. So how do you navigate the pressure between reaching those that people aren't reaching versus the pressure to make it like all the other churches?
Well, we have had a couple of the guys who have started coming along, and they're like, hey, so when are we getting a building? And I just had to turn around and say to them, look, this is what is working now. This is what God is doing now. Maybe he will take us there in the future, but right now, this is where he has us. He has steered this church every step of the way so far. So I'm not going to take the wheel and divert it in a different direction just because it would be easier, or we could then do a worship service or whatever, or we could, have our own space and we won't have people making loud noises and interrupting the discussions and stuff like that. But that's not what it was, how it started. So I don't feel like that's where we should go ahead. So that's what I've said to the guys. And the guys really respond to that because they see that I don't want to, if anything, I'm a reluctant leader, almost like you were in Pillar in the beginning. And so that's kind of where we're at with the whole thing. And I think they like the fact that there's good coffee. So I just say, if we go to our own building, our coffee will probably suck. So
hey,
you're already winning.
So yeah. So you're doing this in a coffee house, right?
Yes, we do it on the Sunday mornings. We do it in a Costa Coffee, which is a UK chain, and then on the Monday nights in a Starbucks.
So did you need to get permission to do it in the coffee house from like management, or is it just like, hey, there's only 15 of us, no one really cares because we're just taking a few tables over here and talking?
Yeah, I went to the management and I said, this is what I'm planning on doing. Are you guys okay with that? Because I didn't want to be going in there and just, ruffling feathers, and making, well, I don't know, it would be a bad witness straight away. The fact that we're there every Sunday and we clean up after ourselves and make sure the space is neat and tidy when we leave. And I think it's just a simple way in which we can show that we respect them and love and care for them. So yeah, we did that with both buildings. Starbucks were particularly helpful. They were like, hey, we'll reserve a table for you and everything. They were really awesome. So that was great.
You've had to reserve your own table, because when I was there in the summer, you weren't there that day. But what's amazing is you're training up other guys. Like I got someone asked me this week, they're like, hey, we've been talking over on this and we want to start Jump School, which is our online training. And they're like, hey, we they're getting the bug. So a lot of the people that are coming, of course, some of those guys were back with Pillar when we planted. And so, to them, that was how they got saved. So it was kind of normal. But now I think they're beginning to realize what we did in Pillar isn't normal. And so we're going to go to other churches. We're not going to get trained to do this. So we want to learn how to do this. And so, but the thing that's kind of cool is when I was there, I was so impressed with Phil, and I know Nathan's there and others who will probably be coming up in time. But what's amazing to me is how these guys, that you're not needed. You have done it so that you've been equipping them and pushing them to the front to lead this. Tell me a little bit about your strategy and why you're doing that and what you're doing to get these guys to stand on their own.
Well, from day one of when I realized this was actually going to be a thing, I was like, I have to have some sort of plan if this does grow really quickly. So Phil Collins, not of
Phil Collins. What a pull!
No, not of Genesis fame.
Oh,
not that guy. So Phil Collins.
That's kind of disappointing, Barry.
Yeah, I know. Like Ruben saw, I put a picture of him up on Facebook this week, and I said Phil Collins was teaching this week, and he was like, "What? You guys have celebrities? We can't match that."
The old bait and switch. Come here, Phil Collins. Talk about Jesus.
I should put that poster up, shouldn't I? Oh, yeah, that'd be good. That's a good way to get people to come. Anyway,
you would back it out, man. It would be
where were we? I'm kind of.
We were talking about kind of, from day one, you knew that you had to kind of replace it.
Yes. So because we don't have our own facilities and we have no money, and in Wales there's not much funding for church planting in the US, so there's zero funding for church planting in the UK. That if we were going to do it, we couldn't just take over a whole coffee shop. Like if 20 people come, the format that we do it on wouldn't work. So I knew that we would have to then spread to different coffee shops. So I've already started to do that with the Monday night. I mean, I haven't fully left Phil in charge of Sundays, but he has been leading for the last 3 weeks, and he's been doing a flipping great job. And he's even just taken on going to Calvary Bible College in the UK online, which is great. So he's doing that. So it was from day one, I knew I had to reproduce myself if this was going to work as a model of any shape and form. And it was sort of inspired by what Francis Chan has done in San Francisco, in those apartment complexes that he sort of, he started up a little group, built up a leader, moves on to the next one. And that's kind of the plan. And Phil's already now started building up his own guys. So it's just constantly reproducing ourselves.
And I know you're on, you're engaged to an American. So I mean, you're probably Reuben's sister, nonetheless, which means that you even have to treat her really right, or we'll find you in a box. And not even in a box.
We won't even find him.
We'll never find you. So, you are a man of faith in many ways. And, like we say in Refuge, saved but still dangerous. So here's the deal. You're doing that. I was able to witness firsthand people that hadn't been to church in years, and also people that maybe, were very far away from God, or open to Christianity, open to Jesus. I know Simon stumbled into us while we were there. There were other people. Tell us some cool stories. Just, you don't have to use names or embarrass anyone, but what would be some cool stories of what you've witnessed happening since you've seen this? Just, people kind of making breakthroughs in their personal faith.
Well, Phil is probably the poster child of the whole thing we did, because I met him in a, and I know he won't mind me sharing this because he's very open about it. I happened to just bump into him in a Starbucks, and me and him just started talking, and I knew he was a wrestling fan, and we started talking about wrestling. And then I just started to get into what he'd been up to, and he'd been through it. Like, he'd had a really rough time of it, with like suicide attempts, and was just suffering with serious depression. He'd been looking after his 2 grandparents who were very unwell. He'd been almost like full-time carers for them, living in with that. And then they both passed away within, like, I think it was like a month of each other. And so his whole life was like turned upside down. And he has come so far. I mean, we've only been doing it it's only been a year. And now he's, leading the group in Bible college, and is confident in sharing the gospel with anyone. Like, each and every week he's like, oh yeah, I ended up talking with so-and-so. Because like they see us, like the staff in the coffee shop see us doing the coffee shop churches. So then when we're in the coffee shop, later on in the week, they end up asking us questions. And Phil has had all these conversations with all these people. It's like, wherever I go, people keep asking me about Jesus. And so he has been a huge revelation and an inspiration to a lot of the other guys. And then one of the other guys, Nathan, he was just a couple of months ago was like, I'm an atheist. I'm a staunch atheist. And then this last Saturday, he went and Bible shopping with Phil. And now he's like, I'd love to lead a week. I'd love to lead a week. And it's just, it's surprising how God is using it. I honestly didn't see anything like this happening when it first sort of started kicking off. And it's just, these guys are just really just running with the ball and just going with it. And it's great. It's great to see.
And what's kind of cool about this is I know there's people who, they can't make it every week because they work, maybe they work retail or whatever, and they can't make it every Sunday, but they know it's there, and they're on a journey. I talked to one individual who was on a journey with God, and I could actually see evidence as this person is walking with God now. And, it's phenomenal, man, just to see. Again, when I was there, I was like, you guys don't change this. If anything, reproduce this, multiply this. And so as I came away, I just remember thinking, this is powerful, because you guys this is going to spread. You could literally run one of these in every single coffee shop in the UK, every single Costa, which is Starbucks competitor, or Starbucks. And this would do something. And if you had a centralized network like New Breed, wink, wink, that could kind of pull people together when it was time. This was Paul's methodology: share the gospel. This is getting out into the marketplace. And when things take up, kind of gain enough speed, well, maybe then you're going to need to bring them to a place to worship, like a Monday night or whatever. But that's the model that you guys have followed. And I would love, maybe in future we'll get you on the podcast again, because one of the things I would love to hear about, and love to hear you tell us about, your internship in California when you came out.
Oh, goodness.
Because that was kind of not just with me, but with Ruben. I mean, Refuge, but also Refuge Long Beach, but also Refuge San Pedro. I mean, we really put you on the front lines. We put you on the front lines, and then we put you on the front lines on speed.
I know. Little Welsh boy from a small little fishing village preaching in the project in San Pedro.
Well, hey, Pete's got a
crazy
question for you, Barry. We could talk to you a lot longer, but this is our shorter show. So, man, thank you so much. And one suggestion I would make to anyone who's listening is if you do this, Barry's got a little sign up there, and it says Coffee Church. It's got the time. They go around and they tell people very nicely, hey, you know, are you almost there? We're going to be having a group. If you wouldn't mind in a little while, you know, we normally use this space. And one of the things you can do is offer to buy people a cup of coffee when you got to ask them to move. But not only because they go about a half hour, 45 minutes before and try to clear that space. Number two, you can have on your sign something like, first time join us and we'll buy your coffee, something like that. So, all right. So Pete's got his question and I'll back out here.
Barry, if you were to get into a physical fist fight with Chris Langham, who would win?
Oh, Langham. I've been thinking, who was he going to ask that I would fight? Langham. Oh
Langham's
my gosh,
got
he's got
some
that
reach, man.
He's got that.
He's got the reach.
Those long. Oh goodness. I don't think I could take him. Although I would list. He's too nice. I wouldn't want to hit him.
Yeah, he would never hit you. He just wouldn't. He's too nice.
See, now it's funny for those.
He wouldn't want to hit me. We'd just end up I don't know.
Yeah, because for those of you that don't know, Chris Langham is the teaching elder at Refuge Long Beach. He is kind of a celebrity, even though you may not know who he is. Through the word.org, it's almost 500,000 downloads a month. So that's pretty epic.
They pretty much put our podcast to shame.
I mean,
he has a very soothing voice. He's a very soothing voice. So I imagine that would be his tactic. He would just slowly.
How about this one?
Send me to sleep.
Barry, if you were to get into a physical fist fight with your future brother-in-law, Ruben, who would win?
Careful how you answer now.
I know, you got to be careful.
I take him every time. I take him the Welsh against the Latinas every time.
I hate to tell you this, man, but you are smoking crack on that one. There is no way you're taking Ruben. And there's no way Ruben's fighting clean either. Let's just be frank about it. You're not taking him and he's not fighting clean.
No, all Ruben would have to do is look at you and you'd be on the floor.
The Celts fight naked.
That's how tough Ruben is.
Dude, I'm a big dude, but I can tell you this. If Ruben stepped to me, I'd be like, I'm getting out of here. I'm running.
Yeah, if Pete and I together were going to try to take Ruben, we'd still run.
Yeah, we really would. We really would. Because even if we escaped, he's got friends, man. He does,
yeah. Even if you took him down the first time, then yeah, you. But the advantage is the Celts, we fight naked. I think that would throw him a bit nuts.
You're not the first one that's used these tactics, but one guest did call us back and say, please erase everything I said off that.
He did, yeah. We did. We had one guest do that. Oh my gosh, it was hilarious.
Hey, guys, this has been Hardcore Church Planning. This has been Barry Waters and Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. Arnold, take it.
Remember, if you are called to church planting, go hardcore or go home.
You've been listening to Hardcore Church Planning. Hardcore Church Planning has been brought to you by the Church Planner Podcast and the Church Planner Magazine, which is available in the App Store for both Apple and Android devices. If you like this episode, leave us a positive review. If you didn't like this episode, we'll be happy to give you your money back.